All right. Welcome back to the Fuck It All podcast for modern women redefining it all. I'm Casey Gordon, your host, and today I am sitting down with my dear friend, Michelle Khouri. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I don't know if you know this about how much of an inspiration you are to me. So I'm going to start with a little love letter.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. And then bring a box of tissues. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not. But you were, as I started on this project at the time, it wasn't even a company, of asking what it means to have it all, of wanting to have this podcast, and we'll get into more of why audio is so central to, where we started in our relationship. Somebody said, you just have to talk to Michelle. And you were so gracious to take that conversation. And in our initial one, you were believing eyes. Like, I was coming from a world of much more traditional, less like creative in nature. And so as I started telling you this, you're like, yeah, that makes total sense and it's great and you should. And it was this belief that I didn't have, and you're somebody that the work you do is so amazing, your company that you're building and run. And so when I heard that, I was like, okay, like, if Michelle thinks this is legitimate, like, let me, I needed that day.
Yeah.
And over the past couple years, we've continued to develop a super deep friendship, and getting to just watch you have a sign that whenever we see you on Zoom, that's right out of the corner, it says, be as big as you are. Mm-hmm. And I want to start there for today's conversation, because as women, we're never told that big is a good thing.
Nope.
Not in our personalities, not in our size, not in our ideas, not in our voice, and so that to me, I associate, because that's like, shine that light.
Yes.
And I want to start there, first of all, and say thank you. And second of all, let's riff on be as big as you are.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. And it is amazing how symbiotic it can be when you believe in someone, and then it fosters this relationship, because now you guys inspire me and support me, and we're able to really lean on each other. And that's a beautiful, beautiful act of community and supportive, divine feminine, right? So, yeah, be as big as you are. It was a very personal lesson for me, as it's like, I think every woman or really person who isn't the dominant sort of like white patriarchal man can relate to feelings of smallness or being told by society to be smaller. And for me, I'm physically big. I'm tall, I'm big, I'm a big personality. I was born with like jazz hands out the womb. Like I was like, hi everybody. And from the beginning, my family was always just kind of like, shh.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to shh, okay? So it, there was an interesting dynamic since I was little in school, constantly being told to quiet down, or, being held back from recess because I was being rambunctious, that because I was a girl, people didn't think, maybe she's not being challenged enough. Maybe she's smarter and needs more challenge. It was, she has behavioral issues. She's too big, right? And so I'm thankful, because for me, there's an inherent stubbornness to me. Like, I only know how to be this way. Mm-hmm. And trying to be smaller my whole life only led me to being miserable and still big. Mm-hmm. So it was like, what is wrong here? There's something off here. And at a certain point in my life, I realized it wasn't me. And I think that was through meditation, and I think that was through my own spiritual practice and my own healing journey. But it was in a meditation, finally, years into my meditative practice, that I was sitting there, and the message just like kind of zoomed into my brain. It was just, be as big as you are. And I remember I started crying, because it was just like this permission that I never realized I really, really needed. And I made it the slogan of my business. And I preach it every day. And I feel like I genuinely believe that if we all of us in this entire world, every person on this earth, learned to be as big as they are and felt encouraged to be as big as they are, their fullest, biggest selves, we would have harmony. Harmony comes from that feeling of feeling as big, as being able to express yourself as fully as you can in every facet of life.
Okay, mic drop, we're done.
Bye.
Yeah. You talked about your business, and you're a storyteller. You are somebody, I think one of our first conversations, you said, yeah, like I'm put on this earth to change the world through sound, to make it better, to heal this earth. And I want to talk about that because when I started with Fuck It All, when again, it was a creative project before it had even turned into what it is now, podcasts called to me because I felt so exhausted by how I had to show up.
Yes.
In every space I was occupying, whether it was at work or as a partner, as a mother, or as a woman. And I wanted to, one, strip it all away and be able to, selfishly come into my pajamas and record. But I also wanted what I looked like to not impact if what I had to say was valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that became really powerful. And I think especially as we tell women's stories, that's just not the narrative that we see at a macro level.
Yeah.
And so I want to hear about your relationship with this concept of healing the world through sound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds really lofty because it's like, oh, you're going to hear the whole world with their own. It's like, well, I'm going to try.
But when you said it, I was like, yes, you will. Like, I believe it.
Listen, if we can all help to heal even a facet of one person every day of our lives by just like showing up in our fullness and trying to be kind and understanding when it is the hardest thing in the world sometimes, that's healing the world. That's as simple as it is. It's really not most of us as individuals, if we can just bring that sense of like one facet of one person every day, let me try to help people heal through that. And that often is just being present with that person, not allowing their trigger moment to trigger you, providing space for people, providing empathy, that's all healing. Sonically, where I see sound come in is, it has some real effects on us physiologically. Like on our bodies, when sound enters our eardrums, it reverberates through our entire body. And that's why like when we listen to a song and you could be so chipper and you listen to a super sad song and you're in that moment, you're in that energy field with that song. That's potent. Sound to me, the way that it affects us and the way that our psyches can change, depending on what we're listening to, whether it's dialogue based or musical, or any mixture of the two, ambient, the way it can affect us is almost like bridging time and space. It like travels through time and space. It's like quantum for me. So without going too deep, like to me, that is, a very powerful energy that can be harnessed for good or bad. And I think a lot of people harness it more haphazardly. So like if you zoom in a little bit from what I'm saying into podcasting, podcasting's legacy is like this very haphazard, like, okay, like what if we just like sat down and drank beers and just like shut the shit? You know what I mean?
Let me put my champagne away. Yeah.
So anyway, back
we're
to
back.
shooting the shit.
Yeah.
And it's like haphazard. There's no intention.
Right.
Like what are you shooting the shit about and what are you trying to impact people with? What is the impact? What is your audience being left thinking, feeling, or doing? And I think a lot of people didn't think about that component, about the fact that there is an exchange happening.
Yeah.
So with my company, Frequency Media, we set out to, our first question is, how are we affecting our listener? How do we help heal, enlighten, or uplift our listener? And we always find a way to do one of those things. If we can do two, awesome. If we can do all three, bang on job. Like that's like what we're trying to do. So that's what we're trying to do by healing the world through sound. Yeah. It's smaller than it seems.
We can debate that later.
It's baby steps. Like it's not this whole like we're going to transform the world by having only podcasts about kindness and love. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's like no matter what I'm doing.
It's injecting it in small ways and sometimes big ways, like when we work on Jane Goodall's Hopecast, that's like a pretty one-to-one.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just the smallest things that we do that we're ensuring resonate in that way.
You bring so much feminine energy to your work, and you are a very successful business owner, entrepreneur. And at least what I have seen emulated, and this is another reason that just having you in my sphere has been so healing, is that I found it exhausting for a long period of time to emulate, and I say emulate, not be, but emulate masculine energy. And it got me the results that I was seeking, right? Is I wanted to close a deal or make, and so there was this really shitty repeating pattern, but it was self-reinforcing.
Yeah.
And so, and having my daughter made me a lot more in touch with my feminine energy. I had a therapist that just kept saying like, girl, you're craving some feminine energy. Like, and she just kept kind of coaching me on that. I never really thought about life that way, but you're someone that in all the spaces you occupy, you bring, I mean, you said at the beginning, like, all right, divine feminine, let's go. And I said something, you were like, this shirt or this shirt. I'm like, whatever makes you feel in your power. And you go, oh, that honey, that's within. I was like, oh, fuck. Yeah. Okay. But I want to know, like, how, is that just innately Michelle, or is that a practice that you've honed and loved on over time?
Both. I think it's innately all of us to be that divine feminine. I think it's innately in masculine people to also embrace their divine feminine, but I think it's trained out of us. We are told that it's not trained out of us. We're told that there's a choice, that you can be successful in business and be masculine, or you can be desirable to men or the world and be feminine. And we now understand that binaries are fallacy. And also, holy moly, the feminine spirit is, and the feminine energy embodied in any person, no matter what your gender identity, is incredibly powerful. And I always talk about how, like, I've learned to fully express, like, the different facets. I look at it as archetypes. So, like, there's the Madonna, there's, like, the Venus or Aphrodite, and then there's the Kali, the goddess of destruction.
Okay.
And I have all three of those, and I feel really well. I feel very whole in all three of those. And I also embrace my masculine energy. I just happen to feel more connected and have more of an expression myself of feminine energy.
Yeah.
And I also find feminine energy is incredible for leadership and for business. So I especially embrace my feminine energy in building my business. And, for you, what you described as being this experience of, like, I made it when I was trying to emulate the masculine, or when my masculine energy was in overdrive. That is part of the patriarchy.
Yeah.
That is part of an oppressive system to basically say, you will only succeed if you align with the oppressor and if you are the image of what the oppressor wants you to be. And I struggled a lot in my career because of that innate quality of mine that I didn't know how to change. There was a lot of struggle, and I was constantly triggering men, triggering women who were embracing too much masculine. I endured a lot of abuse because of that in the workplace. And that's why my fuck it all moment was, fuck it, I'm going to build my own company in the image of what I believe is right, which is everyone being as big as they are, and that also means we encourage all of the masculine energies on our team to embrace their feminine energy and all of the feminine energies to embrace their masculine. And there is no judgment. And sometimes on a certain day you feel more masculine and it's more about do, create. And other days you feel that feminine energy that is a larger, more organizational, nurturing, strategic energy.
Yeah. I recently learned we've done a lot of work around women's health, and there's a company we're working with, the Agenda Period, and we recently learned she has a cycle tracking system for professional women, which as an entrepreneur, I think, yes, I've always felt those ebbs and flows and energies, but I think as an entrepreneur, because so much of your world is self-driven, there's not necessarily a system that you can, like, less participate in today. It's kind of like, what are you setting forth? But she was talking to us, and I had never heard this, that women's energy cycles, and many of us know this, operate on 28 days, our normal menstrual cycle. But men's energy cycles are 24 hours.
Yeah.
That blew my mind when I started to think about, especially moving into an entrepreneurial space, which, to your point, I was looking around at companies or leaders, and I didn't see anybody that, to use your words, were like building an image that I also wanted.
Yeah.
And so I think that for you out here, having a successful business, being a creative, being a businesswoman, but also showing and creating the space for that, like that in itself is healing, and I'm very grateful
Thank you for that.
that you model that.
Thank you for that. That feels really good to hear. It also feels good to live.
Yeah.
It feels good to live. It feels like alignment, you know? And I also talk a lot about being as big as you are is an act of alignment and seeking alignment and honoring what feels aligned. And, you know, in our culture, how leading through the feminine lens for me has manifested is that, like, you know, I always talk about how men are oppressed by the patriarchy too.
Yes.
Everyone is oppressed by the patriarchy.
It's like this percentage of people are actually even.
I don't know who wouldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know who wouldn't be, because oppression only knows oppression.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel good to anyone. And so for men on my team, to allow them to express themselves emotionally and to have moments where it's like, I need emotional support, is so beautiful to see. And it also facilitates incredible empowerment across the entire spectrum of energy and gender identity, because everyone's allowed to show up as they are. The one thing that's not allowed is emotional dumping on other people. That's just, you know,
I mean, that's
good
just
person,
like
good relationship.
Right.
So yeah, it's pretty amazing, because we our conflict resolution, Brene Brown calls it rumbling. Like, we can rumble and come out stronger and closer because of it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's an art form. Do you want to come to my house and do my marriage?
No.
Okay. Just asking for a friend.
No thanks.
I'm curious of when I say, and so many of us have heard it, but women can have it all, or the pursuit of it all. What has been your relationship with that stereotypical it all?
I've never felt compelled to have or want it all.
Okay.
Mostly because I guess there was a time where I like strangely fell into the traps of what was fed to me as all, which is like marriage and kids and suburbia and everything. So like, I got married and I started saying I wanted kids. I had never wanted marriage or kids. And every time my ex-husband would mention kids, I'd be like, and I was like, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, just
That's not good.
unpack that.
I did unpack
Yeah,
it.
good.
Got divorced.
That was a
Don't
good
have
conflict
kids.
resolution.
Following my
Yeah.
truth. But, you know, it was for me, I think having it all, we skip the part where you have to figure out what all means to you. And it's like, we're given this story about being insatiable. So it's kind of like this energy of like, you must be insatiable. You must want all of it at all times. You're not whole. You'll never be whole. You have to collect. And that's like, you know, symptomatic of a consumerist culture, which is symptomatic of capitalism, which is symptomatic of the patriarchy, which is
Just pull that
symptomatic of
thread all the way up. Yep.
Yep. The sweater is unwound.
Yep.
So I think that first step is, what satisfies you? Like, you got to sit down and ask yourself, what is it that actually satisfies you? What do you do that makes your heart feel full and makes you just feel comfortable from head to toe? Our bodies tell us so much. They give us so much information about what is right and what is wrong. And we have this kind of like disconnect happening here with our minds and our hearts and our bodies. Our bodies will tingle when something feels electric. Our stomachs will tighten when we're not happy or when there's some kind of energy that's off. Women in particular, holy moly, are intuitions. And we have to have that because we're in danger so much. So we know how to pick up on all of these energies around us. We got to listen to that. You know, it's in the simplest form. It's like, do you like sitting on a beach all day? Or does that make you unhappy?
Right.
Oh, you do? Okay, so sunshine, great. So you need sunshine. What gives you sunshine? Maybe you shouldn't have an office job.
Right.
Maybe you shouldn't be indoors all day, every day. Do you like farming? You know, like it's a
Yeah.
self-exploration. And then it's not about having it all in society's terms. It's about having all that makes you happy. And I think we skip that exercise all too often as women in particular. I think everyone skips that exercise, frankly.
I completely agree. I'm curious, looking back now, you had said like a stint on the traditional path, we'll say.
Yes.
when you look at that, is there like, for me, I'll say this. When I look at things that didn't work out with time, I usually am grateful because now I know what bad felt like. Mm-hmm. And then that's been a barometer or a lane that I can play in. And I'm curious now, when you look at that, what are some of the things that you take away?
What are some of the things that make me happy, that I realize make me happy from that? Depth. Depth, expansion. The list is long because I didn't know what I wanted back then. I didn't even know myself. I was kind of a shell of myself, just kind of robotically going through the life that I thought I had to have. And I'm the child of immigrants, and that adds a layer of complexity to that because, it's like security and stability at all costs. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. I entered a world of security and stability, and it cost a lot. Mm-hmm. It cost my self-esteem. It cost my, and self-esteem not for no other reason than I just didn't know who self was. Yeah. I hadn't met her. I didn't spend time with her. I didn't get to know her. I didn't honor her inner child or children, what she wanted. I just ignored it. And so the list is very long about like what I learned. I had a whole awakening from that situation. Mm-hmm. And coming out of that awakening then began like a very long healing journey of realize like I awoke to a bucket of trauma.
It sounds like a wild time.
It's been crazy. But I woke to like, everything hurts. Mm-hmm. Everything hurts. There's so many wounds. Like, okay, I guess I'll just start tending one by one to the ones I can see first. Yeah. And then once I tended to those, I could see deeper ones and deeper ones and deeper ones. And so now I actually know what I want and what it all means to me. Mm.
Yeah. What is for you your favorite part of being a woman?
So many things. I think we are super, super strategic. And our ability to take disparate pieces, look around a room or around a situation, mm-hmm. and take 1,000 different pieces and put them together like a puzzle in like milliseconds, nanoseconds, is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. We also are we're warriors. The level of pain and discomfort a woman can handle mm-hmm. is unreal. A man could never. A man could never. And a lot of men I know that.
Yeah.
And they're like, whew,
yeah.
What y'all deal with. So there's just an innate sort of warrior spirit that we carry as implications of thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of years of just like evolution in a world that wasn't really made for us or meant for us. Mm-hmm. And also just naturally how we are. And I love the feminine flirtiness. Like I love just being feminine and flirty and sexual and sensual. Mm-hmm. I love that part of being a woman. And the playfulness, we can be so joyful and playful. So I think that being a woman is, when you really embrace every piece of it, such a well-rounded and holistic experience, like so multifaceted. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, what makes you feel in your power? Other than you said it was inside and, you just walk around with it.
Yeah. Just being. No, I'm not that that evolved. That's something that I'm working on because previously what made me feel in my power was actually, this isn't something to work on necessarily, but creating something from nothing. So creating from idea into reality makes me feel super in my power and I electric. Like I was clearly made to create things in different ways. Helping others with healing makes me feel super in my power. Yeah. Now that's I have to be careful that I don't take on other people's healing journeys or like
Yeah.
push them when they don't want to be pushed. Like if you're open to it, if I'm aligned to that moment and I'm meant to help you and I do, that's awesome.
Right.
That makes me feel good and in my power. And the thing that I'm working on is not identifying overly with what kind of creation makes me feel in my power. So like not over identifying as a CEO or an entrepreneur, because nothing is guaranteed. Mm-hmm. So, I've been humbled multiple times as a business owner, and having those moments where you're like on a precipice, you have to be like, if all of this goes away tomorrow, who am I? And I'm still me. So that's the thing that I've been working on, not over identifying with that power.
I resonate with that a lot. I find myself lost at times, and then once I find an identity that I can cling to, it's like I'm going to sink a claws in that, and that's me now.
Yep.
And terrified to change it. So you just put words to something that I think I've been grappling with, but didn't myself know.
That's a toughie.
Yeah, that's episode 2 of this. When you think back on all you've experienced, your relationship with having it all, knowing your own it all, what is something you would tell your younger self?
Oh my God, be as big as you are.
Oh, we come full circle.
Be as big as you are.
Yes.
I would tell her that the best thing she can do to be loved, to be successful, to be powerful, to get everything she's ever wanted is be exactly who she is. That's like, I would just hold her and hug her and tell her that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
I just want to keep going. I know. More champagne.
I wanna,
That'll
squeeze
be.
You.
I know. Thank you. Seriously.
Thank
you
you
for the work you do. And I think the fact that you take the mission of the work you do down to just every single moment. It doesn't have to be always the big thing, that the small things are just as important.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. That's another episode of the Fuck It All Vodcast, because we're now in video. My name is Casey Light-Gordon. I'm the host, and you can check out more of these stories at itallmedia.co/join. We'll see you next time.